afternoon, and thank you for joining me on yet another episode of Read Me Live. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and I have a very special guest for you today. We're going to be speaking to Sunshine, the soul healer guiding spiritual recovery. Good afternoon, Sunshine. How are you?
Hey, Sharifa, I am doing lovely. How about yourself?
I find you so calm. I'm all, hey, how's everything? She's like, hey, Sharifa, how's it going?
You should have seen me yesterday. So I don't drink a lot of caffeine. And,
Okay.
I think I told you yesterday I was traveling and we
Yes.
stopped and I asked, I said, can you give me a half calf? And about 40 minutes into that, we're in a store and I'm talking dropping off a copy of my book. And I'm talking and I look at my friend that I'm with and I said, I don't think they gave me half calf.
You were up.
Oh, then I go to introduce myself to this lady's husband and I was like, "Hi, you're Sunshine, right?" And I look at him and I was like, "Oh my God, I did not just say that." And I was like, "I'm sorry. I'm on too much caffeine." And he's like, "Are you sure that's all you're on?" I was like, "That might be the case. I don't know." Yeah, I was like, "Wow. Yeah, yeah." So, woo, yeah. So, yeah, I try to stay calm, but sometimes somebody slips me some caffeine and it's a whole nother story. Mhm.
What I love the story, and that's exactly why I don't have caffeine because people are like, "You don't drink coffee," and I'm like, "Can you imagine me on caffeine? I be bouncing off the walls. I'm already hyper enough. But I think I equate it to the little girl in me. I get
Mhm.
excited by things, right? So my shows are very exciting for me. I get to meet new people. I get to learn new things. So it's like I want to have fun. Yeah.
I get it. I also have the little child that likes to peek up every now and again. I don't know if it's just because I've been on a handful of shows, so I just enjoy it. Like I love meeting new people, so I get in and I'm like, hey bestie, let's hang out. Let's go hang out on the couch. We'll put on a movie, eat some popcorn. That's how I get.
But see, you're a psychic. You already tuned in on the fact that bestie is one of my words. Like I use bestie for everything. And I have this Facebook group called Besties.
Oh,
And
that's too funny.
yes, because with Facebook, they say that groups, really show up in the algorithm faster than just your profile. And
Yeah.
so everybody is doing different things, having different events, and people be like, "Oh, why didn't you come to this? Why didn't you see this? Why didn't you do that?" I'm like, I didn't even know about it. So I created a group for all my besties. And what's so funny is I watch it and I get like two, three, four, five new members every other day. And I'm like, I don't even know these people. Where do these people come?
Same. I say same exact thing. I run a group as well called Sober Witch Life, a
Mhm.
recovery group for witches. And
Okay.
I mean, some of them I can see that they're also finding my creator profile,
Right.
right? And there's a way that if you've got a creator profile, it'll automatically send an invite if you have a group attached to it. So I
Right.
know that's happening, but there's same thing, three new folks almost every other day, and I'm like, I mean, I'm a blessings, right? If they are able to find me, then they're finding me for a purpose. But
Yes.
yeah, same exact thing. Yeah.
Yes, you are
That's
a
so funny.
blessing.
The bestie, I love that. Yeah.
Everybody's a bestie. Like it was, that's my word. If you once anybody you're around, I'm like, oh look, one of my besties. Like I love people. I'm a person who just tends to love people. But I want to talk about you and what you do. So let's talk about sober witch in recovery.
Yeah.
What is a sober witch in recovery even about?
Yeah, so just the other day, Thursday, I celebrated 6 years in recovery from alcoholism.
Mhm.
And yeah, and this last week, so I hit my rock bottom in alcohol addiction on my 40th birthday. And so that was October 5th. And so October 9th, because even though I hit my rock bottom, I was on vacation. And so I still drank and drugged for a couple more days until I came home. And so October 9th is my last day that October 8th, actually, last day I picked up a drink. So I have this week that I'm in like deeply reflective mode.
Mhm.
Right. And so I've been thinking a lot over the last week, and I actually realized I've been in recovery. And I was talking to my partner this morning. I've been in recovery since I exited an abusive marriage in 2015.
Okay. So 10
Right?
years.
10 years. But recovery is not a it's not a quick game, right? It's not the quick thing. And so I was recovering from an abusive relationship. And then in 2017, I stepped out of a really, really toxic work environment that I was working well beyond what I was being respected for. So I recovered from that environment. And then in 2019, finally stepped into recovery from alcoholism. And I would say even now I'm realizing I'm still, over the last 2 years, recovering from, I had repressed memories come up of some pretty severe childhood abuse.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so, I say this journey of recovery is a story I think that many people are familiar with. But for me, I've identified as a witch since I was 16, and for a long period of my adult life, I was still what I would consider in the broom closet.
Okay.
Right? I was still in the broom closet. I still had a bit of a mask of shame around my own spiritual beliefs. And it wasn't until I put down that drink and stepped into my recovery from alcoholism and realized that if I truly wanted to transform and change my life, that I had to embrace my spiritual beliefs in a way that I never had before in my life. And that was truly embracing my sobriety as this witch that I really was.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
So how do you know you're a witch, and what makes you a witch?
Yeah. How do I know that I witch? I think many individuals that identify as a witch will probably tell you a similar answer. You just know.
Okay.
Right? You do just know, right? But what I believe makes you a witch, because I think that's a good question. I believe that there are 3 kind of pillars that that a witch has. And that first pillar is the belief in the practice of the psychic arts. I see you shuffling them cards
Yeah,
there.
I'm shuffling.
Right? That is that belief and that practice of the psychic arts, right?
Okay.
That second pillar is the belief in the practice of magic and ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so magic is this practice of, it can be as simple as stating a prayer or as complex as leading a full blown ritualistic mass. And I don't care, even I was raised Catholic, and I look at the act of a Catholic mass as a very beautiful magical ritual. Right. That is the
No, I
belief
agree.
in the
I agree.
belief in the practice of magical ritual. And that third pillar for me, as far as a witch goes, is the belief in the practice that we are to be here of service to the world. And that can be as simple as being a mother or a father to a child and raising them so that they themselves are out there being good little humans, or as complex as forming a nonprofit that is going to be here to help support other individuals on their own individual recovery journeys. Yeah.
That is so beautiful. And I really asked, number one, because I'm nosy as hell, and I love to see what other people have to say. But I wanted to see your answer and really understand your thought process. Because one of my besties, one of my dear friend, Ren, she owns a metaphysical store here in Southern California called The Dragon and the Rose. And she considers herself a witch. She considers herself a pagan. And before I knew what a witch was, in her definition, it was my understanding that she was an atheist, like more than anything else. And then I would always ask the question, why are all my atheist friends like the nicest people? Like, why are they the sweetest, kindest people? You know what I mean? And so one day I just asked her, and I asked her, it wasn't an interview, but it was basically the same thing. Like, what is a witch? How do you consider a witch? And first of all, my dear friend, she has had 3 children, but she's buried 2 of her 3 children. And her daughter was a pagan. And so, when her daughter was coming up, they would have these discussions, and she would try to tell her daughter she wasn't a pagan, you're a good Christian girl, that kind of thing. And then her daughter passed away, and she was cleaning out her daughter's room and began reading some of her daughter's pagan books. And then she was like, you know what? I'm a pagan. I didn't even know that this is what it means. And then she opened this metaphysical store where she has all the herbs, all the
Yeah.
oils, all the magic, everything you need in the
Yeah.
store, for everybody. So for me, I was raised Muslim, you know, but I was also, thank God, had two very spiritual parents who, I'm a third generation reader. My grandmother was a reader. My mother was a reader. My mother taught me how to read. And my father is really into astrology and numerology, right? So I can't just call my dad and tell him about my life. My dad would be like, well, have you checked where the moon is? I'd be like, Dad, who does that? Right. So I just really wanted to know, because the things that you mentioned are the sweetest, kindest things. And I think people in this, we get a bad rap.
We really do. You know, and I was talking to someone recently and I said, you know, I think people term or they look at the witch because of, you know, of the movies, of the Wicked Witch of the West, right? Of the black magic or the darker magic, the stuff that is cast because of hate.
Right.
Right. But I don't care if you have the label of a witch, of a Christian, of a Muslim.
Right.
I don't care what religion, dogma, belief, or whatever it is. If you are casting it with hate,
right,
you're casting it with hate.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. 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 So after I got married and left home, I went on more of a spiritual journey, you know, and that's what I believe in. I believe at the root of all religions, there is love, and God is love, and that we have to love each other, love our neighbor, love our enemy, whatever it is just be love. And the most amazing, incredible people, all my besties, they're just good people, and I don't categorize them into it. But 20 years ago, my mother told me, she was like, you can be a reader, you can read the cards, you can go do that. And I was like, those people not about to stone me. I'm not doing that.
I have this very dear friend that has such a passion for activism. Like she stands up, she owns a restaurant and she literally owns this restaurant in Chicago so that she can fight activists like for her community, right? It's such a beautiful cause. And we've talked about, I was like, I don't have this like activism blood, right? There's just nothing in here. And lately I've been starting to listen to witches and pagans talk of fear. I'm afraid to practice. I'm afraid to go out. I'm afraid to have my spiritual beliefs. And I'm feeling this like mama bear come up in me for the very first time. And I'm feeling, I see her in me. And I'm like, this is what it feels like to have this desire to be an activist,
right,
to want to protect, to want to fight. Right. Because to your point is like, no, none of us want to be stoned. But like I just told my friend yesterday, we were driving back and it's dark. And, you know, she lives in a very small town. And I'll tell you, this is a wild story. And she lives in this very small town. And I'm listening to her talk the last couple of days, and she's like, I'm lowering my prices. There's just a lot of Christians around here, and you know, there's this other person, and they're not getting what they're lowering their prices, and there's just a lot of Christians and all this kind of stuff. And I said to her, I said, you know, there's some fear coming in you. There's like fear in you right now. And I said, you owe it to yourself to spend some time meditating and talking to your guides to reflect on where in the heck this fear is coming from and to find out how you can release it. Mind you, we are in the back dark roads of Indiana in cornfields. Okay. And we're saying this and it's pitch black and there is no one around. And I swear, in this moment, as I am saying this and in spirit is coming through me, a deer jumps out right in front of my car.
Wow.
Looks me dead in the eye, and the whole world stops. And then it just hops away. We came moments from hitting this thing. And she like the whole thing. And she like horrified. I just laughed. I said, man, does the universe have a sense of humor? I'm talking about fear.
Right.
And look what just jumped out in front of us. Like fear, right?
Right.
Wild. Yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair for people to go around and to cast stones, so to speak, on people that have a faith or a belief in a spiritual practice. And I'm so passionate about this because my faith and my spiritual practice is tied to my recovery.
Mhm.
And the moment somebody threatens my faith and my belief, they're threatening my recovery.
Absolutely. And that's why 20 years later, after my mom told me to do it, I believe I had to mature into it. At 29, there was fear. There was a lot
Mhm.
of fear. And the fear wasn't just about literally getting stoned. It was, I think we have to mature into certain things. I taught a class the other day of college students that wanted to learn tarot. And I told them, I said, but here's the thing, no matter what it means to you today, it's going to evolve over time, because over time you get more experiences. How can you tell someone about their marriage if you've never been on a first date? How can you tell someone about their career if you never worked a job, right? So as you experience life and you go through the different things, the cars will change for you,
Yeah.
your views will change for me, and it's just something that I'm matured into. And so what I've been spending probably the last 5 years doing was in politics. I ran for Long Beach City Council, then I ran for Senate, and I was in line to run for governor of California in 2026. But then after everything happened with Charlie Kirk, and it was like the energy just got really dark. And I said, you know what? This is not the energy where I want to be. I want to be of service to people, be of service to mankind in a different form. And what do I really want to do? And I have been doing certain readings. My friend, like I said, ran at the Dragon and the Rose, asked me, she was like, Sharifa, can you come do readings for me? And there are certain people, when they ask, I will move mountains for those people. And so I just started doing readings. And I was like, you know what? I really enjoy this. I really love this. And so I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do. I changed everything. I built readmelive.com. And the whole point for me of Read Me Live and why it's not only me doing readings, but also a show, is because I want to speak with people such as yourself. I want to speak to everyone and incorporate some insight, something that can give back to them. But I also want to demystify this whole area, because
Yeah.
I believe everyone is psychic, everyone. Just like
Oh, 100%.
even but some people just have stronger natural abilities, just
Yeah.
like some people do other things naturally,
Yep.
when they are born. But then there's people who they can study for years, and then they have different abilities. So I just wanted to have these conversations. I launched my first podcast in 2009, and so I just love speaking to people, interviewing, and I just added the aspect of doing a reading. But I just wanted to go back to what we were talking about, you and the sober witch in recovery. That's what your book is about, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your book.
Yeah, so I stepped into recovery into AA. I did 90 meetings in 90 days. I worked the 12 steps, and after a year in recovery, I reflected back and I said, "How have I managed to not pick up a drink for a whole year?" And I realized that I'd worked those steps, but I shifted and changed them in a way that they worked for a witch. And
Okay.
so my second year in recovery, I sat down and I wrote a book. I wrote it. I wrote how I did it. I should say I didn't write the book. I wrote how I did it.
Okay.
Right. And so I thought I was going to step forward and edit that book after that second year, and spirit spoke and said, no, you're going to put it down for a moment. It's not ready quite yet.
Okay.
And I'm really appreciative of that. Hey, I'm just appreciative of the fact that I've trusted and surrendered to spirit. I'm so grateful because it has not led me astray.
Mhm.
um, and I didn't pick it up. Finally, on my 5-year anniversary, right around then, spirit spoke and said, are you ready? It's time to go ahead and pick it up and edit it.
Mhm.
Right. And so last fall, on my 5-year, I started to edit, and it's just such a beautiful thing. It's part this story of my life, just bits and pieces of my life and what it was like to be in active addiction, it was like to step into recovery, and what it was like to do so as a witch. And then it is all of these incredibly beautiful tools with these steps, right? And I chose to do this very intentionally because for anybody that has ever been around a 12-step program, right? I went ahead and I said, how can I give folks that may have 12-step programs right in their backyard something that they can put into their back pocket, even if it has to be in secret right now, that they could still go ahead and use the tool that I've created in a space that could still welcome them, right? How can I give them something that makes them feel like they've got some tools that'll work for them in a space that wasn't created for them? And so I wrote Sober Witch Life, a magical guide for recovery, which is the Witch's 13 steps to recovery. And that is very intentional, 13, because in the 12-step tables, they have a joke of the 13th steps that means a old timer, somebody that's been around the program for an extended period of time, that in essence preys upon a newcomer.
Okay.
And I was horrified at this thought because anybody that's been around, witchcraft and the pagan world understands the number 13 is very, very important. Right. It is representative of the divine feminine. We have 13 moon cycles every single year. Right. It is one of the numbers representative of Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft. And so the 13th step in the Witch's 13th step to recovery is to conduct ritual to heal the world of addiction.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you make a concerted effort to look at most things from a witch's point of view. And the only reason I say that is because, I'm a Black female, right? I just kind of go out in the world. There are instances where I'm like, as a Black female, this is how I feel about it. But then there are other times when I'm like, this is how I feel about this thing. How does being a witch differ from you just being an everyday person in the way you view sobriety? Would other people who were not witches resonate with your book as well?
Yeah, I would say anyone that kind of feels like they haven't really felt like a 12-step or another way of recovery has felt right.
Okay.
Right? The 13 steps is going to incorporate a lot of deep reflection. It's going to incorporate a lot of introspection. Words sometimes, escape me. Yeah. It's going to include some ritual work. It's going to include tarot, right? So even if somebody doesn't necessarily identify as a witch, but incorporate some of these spiritual practices of crystals and herbs and things of that nature into their work, absolutely 100%. It incorporates the belief of the psychic arts. So, some people hesitate and they're like, I don't really like the term witch. And I'm like, yeah, it's, that's your prerogative. That's cool. Right? I have no problem with that. You get to choose, you do you get to choose whatever label that you want to choose. So I've had a handful of folks that have picked the book up and said that they really just enjoy the story. They enjoy seeing the perspective. And I've had a handful of folks that have picked it up and said, I've never looked at things that way before. And I'm really starting to be curious about how that actually applies to my life now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's interesting that you say that because I love tarot. Before I even really got into it, which was really kind of at the end of high school. In high school, I had a love for Greek mythology. So it was just always these stories of right and wrong and good and bad, and but it was always, I think the common theme for me was this underlying understanding that life is about choices and consequences. Like these are the things you're supposed to do. These are the things that, in a lot of respect. So I just resonated with the stories. So now, even when I do readings, when I read for people, they're like, you read different. And I'm like, I don't know, because I focus a lot of giving a lot of information on each card. I focus a lot of time on getting, like I was saying, the class that I had the other day, getting them to really understand that it is a story. It's a story. That's what it is. And that you have to relate to the story. If you don't know the story, then what are you reading? You know, and I've been, just, I'm pretty sure like yourself, Sunshine, you've been to different readers, right? So everybody has their own little flair, their own little vibe. But for me, the one thing where I'm like warning about this reader is when they say the cards say, the cards say, the cards say, the cards say. That's a bad habit I have seen. And when I teach, I always teach the cards are confirmation. They're a confirmation to what you say, to what you hear, to what you feel, to what you receive, because you are magic. And that's why I love Ren of the Dragon and the Rose. She is hilarious. This woman needs her own comedy show. Like she is so funny to me. And she always has these little expressions that I'm like, where do you even come up with this stuff? And she's just so funny. But people come from all over, and they'll just show up at her metaphysical store, and he'd be like, I just needed a hug. And then she just gives the best hugs, because where else can you go for somebody to just care enough to say, you know what? You need a hug, right? But just being there and just being in that environment really makes the difference. But I've been to different metaphysical stores, but one thing that she always does is she always reminds people that the magic is in you and the magic is in the intent, right? So if you come in and you need a red candle, okay, maybe somebody just bought the last red candle. She's like, take a white candle. The candle doesn't know what color it is. You are the one who make it into whatever it is. And I've seen her do that in so many different ways. I guess that was a brief Dragon in the Rose commercial, but you can tell the readers who truly understand and the people who have just, studied the book, memorized the book, but miss the point that they are the magical beings.
Yeah, I mean, that extends beyond even just readers, and just for anybody that practices in the esoteric and the occult spaces, where it's not about study. It's about the embodiment of the art, so to speak, right? Like, I love this, I always think about this, and you might appreciate this, from the storytelling perspective, right? The difference between the magician and the high priestess,
Okay.
right? The magician has all the tools,
yes,
right? He has the athame, and he has the cup, and he has, he has all the tools around him. And
right,
what does the high priestess have?
right.
She has herself, because that
Yes,
is the only thing she needs.
yes,
She knows and understands that she is the earth. She is the water. She is the fire. She is the air. She is the spirit. She does not require any of the tools.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Right. So that is my favorite kind of thing is like, so many times I have, had, neophyte witches or magicians or folks that are like beginning to practice, and they're like, well, but I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have that. I'm like, okay, well, it doesn't matter. Right? Do you have your mind? Yes, you do. Okay. Do you have your breath? Do you have your, you have your body, right? So like, you have your blood, you have all of these things that are you, right? So you have every element that you need and require to cast any spell that you desire, right? You don't need anything else besides yourself. You have every element within you. Yeah.
I love that. And I will keep that definition, but it's just funny that for me, the magician is the Dorothy Wizard of Oz card, right? Because Dorothy goes around the mulberry bush. She goes all around Oz trying to figure out how to get home, only to realize all she had to do was click her heels together 3 times and she would have been home, right? So it's not about not having the tools. It's about not understanding, not knowing how to use the tools. So even without Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, that's why the magician is card 1, is because he already has everything he needs in his backpack. He just doesn't know how to use it or what's in there, you know? So it's just, again, it's always for me about connecting. Do you like the magician is magic? Like, okay, that's how deep you get into it. Like, if you're just like, oh, I got the magician card and it says you got magic. Okay, no, I need you to connect. You know, I feel like acting class at this point. I need you to connect. I need you to connect with the emotion. What emotion are you tapping into?
I actually have. I haven't taught tarot a whole bunch of time, but the one time that I have, the way that I taught it was a course called Stories Through the Tarot. And we did it as Act 1, Act 2, Act 3.
Yes.
Right. And that's literally how we went through the major arcana, was like
Yes.
looking at and building the, accordingly,
Yes.
and the courts and all of those. And it was really, really fabulous, because I believe when, if you're going to use a tool, a divination tool that is so complex, like there is no divination tool as complex as the tarot cards. There just doesn't exist. Like, you have got to use it every which way possible. You've got to use it upwards, downwards, sideways, backwards, forwards. You've got to use different cards. You've got to use every time. This is why people ask, like, oh, do you have like 1,000 tarot cards deck? I was like, no, I don't. And they're like, really? I said, you want to know why? It's because I have a commitment that every single time I get a new tarot card deck, I do a study with it. Have you ever done a study with the tarot card deck? They're like, what do you mean? I said, that means that you literally get intimate with every single card of that deck. That is a year-long process.
Right.
So tell me how many decks you can buy if you're going to commit to studying it for an entire year.
Yes. Yes, I'm like you. People have a lot of decks. I don't. I have one. I read from the Arcanum Tarot, and I fell in love with it because I'm a hopeful romantic. I got that from Ren as well, again. But because I was saying, Ren, I'm a hopeless romantic. She was like, no, Sharifa, you're a hopeful romantic. And I just love the Lover's card and how they're staring at each other and seeing everything about them, right? And so I have had multiple decks over the years, but for me, and again, this is not a knock about anyone, but it's about, if you know the card. My grandmother read with playing cards. She didn't play with tarot decks. People read with runes. People read with a million different things. But to me, it's like one of the things they say is that it's not about the messenger, it's about the message. So can you get the message in what you're reading with? So I just have my little deck. The cards are the same and I resonate with it because I'm a hopeful romantic. And for me, I believe in love. And that love is not just about romantic love. It's about getting people to truly see themselves at the way God loves them, the way God sees them, the way Spirit sees them, right? So if they can do that, and I can do that through a story, I've done what I came here to do.
Yeah, I love that. Every time I've taught, like I said, I don't teach tarot, but I do teach, the psychic development. And I say, when you have somebody walk away, it's the 3 C's. It's comfort. You want them to have comfort. You want them to have clarity. And I forget what the third one is. I'd have to look at my notes, but the comfort and clarity are the 2 ones to always focus on to start. People should understand what you shared with them, and they should be comforted by the message that you've left them with.
That's beautiful. That kind of reminds me of how, when I teach my tarot class, I always have people understand that when people come see you, they believe, whether you told them or not, they believe you're magical. That's what they believe. The people you're querying, the seeker, whoever you want to call them, they believe that you're magical. They believe that you can tap into some energy, some being, some force, something, some spirit that they could only ever hope to achieve, right? So whether you try to take that image out of their mind or not, that's irrelevant. If you're going to be that person in their mind, then what you have to do is make sure that every message you give them is of the highest, most positive, because they take that and run with it. So if you see them, succeeding in life, now you've created the energy and created the possibility for them to succeed at life. right?
Yeah.
They have to accept it. They have to believe in it. They have to do the work. They have to tap into it. But you've introduced it through the delivery of the message. So, it just comes down to the power of life and death is in the tongue. So, that's been around since the beginning of time. And I guess I got to wrap things up, Sunshine, because you and I think we could talk for a long time. And my audience is like, Sharifa, they keep telling me, I thought this was a 1 hour show. Y'all know I'm long winded, and it's Sunday. I'm getting to preaching and I'm having fun. Let me be. So I'm going to do my reading, Sunshine, and I know you're a professional, so don't give me a grade that's too hard, okay?
Oh no, I love this.
On a scale.
It's been a minute since I've actually, since I've had somebody that doesn't know me. I have a couple of friends that know me and ask to sit and read for practice, but it's been a minute, so I appreciate this.
Well, I'm a practice. So for me, first of all, one of the things that I always talk about that changed for me is 20 years ago. I mean, I kept doing them, but I wasn't doing them professionally. I would always go right into the cards. If you would have said, Sharifa, do a reading for me, like, okay, Sunshine, sit down, let's do your reading. And I pull the cards. Now, whether I'm doing a show, whether I'm offline, it doesn't matter. It's still going to take me about 30 minutes until I get to the cards because I want to tap into your energy. So for me, shuffling is my sign to spirit that I'm about to do a reading. Shuffling for me clears the energy of anybody that I read for before. And number 3, it allows me to connect and tap into your energy. So by the time I pull the cards, we know that the messages that I received are specifically for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, love it.
Okay. So for me, the first card is always your main issue, the main theme in your life. And that's 8 of Wands. The 8 of Wands. The 8 of Wands is probably my literally my most favorite card in the deck. Like I love, if I get the 8 of Wands, I'm like, ooh, life is good, right? And the reason why I personally love the 8 of Wands is because I'm lazy. Yeah, my mom hates that I use that word, but that's my word, right? I don't want to be in the energy of a 2 of Wands where I got to take initiative. I got to do the work. I got to step out on faith. I don't feel like doing all that. I just want the Wands, which for me symbolize new opportunities, to just come to me, right? So for the 8 of Wands to me is about being receptive, being open, receiving what is already on its way to you. There's nothing you have to do, change, grow, nothing. It's already on its way to you. So your main issue right now is new opportunities that are on their way to you, okay? But your challenge is the Page of Wands. Page of Wands. So the Page of Wands, especially when in reference to the 8 of Wands, is about messages coming to you. So pages in the days of kings, as I'm sure you know, were the ones who delivered the message. King had one job. His job was to sit on the throne. That's what he did. He set his fat self right on the throne. So if he needed his horse, if he needed a sandwich, if he needed somebody to find the queen, he sent the page. In these days, they didn't have cell phones. They didn't have any other way. So the page delivered messages. So wands, the fire, the creativity, which is really good because, again, the 8 of Wands shows that there is movement. So this movement and this action, fast movement is already on its way to you, because the next card that you have is the Fool. 0, the Fool. And the Fool is beautiful, 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 because the Fool is not only about taking a leap of faith, it's the beginning of the journey, right? The tarot is called the Fool's Journey. One of the reasons it's called the Fool's Journey is because there's the expression that God protects fools and infants. Fools and infants are the only 2 people on earth that don't think they know everything. They are open. So this is about being open like the Fool. When these new opportunities present themselves, be open, use discernment. Just because you get new opportunities doesn't necessarily mean you have to go with or you have to choose all of the opportunities that you are presented with, but also be open, right? The Fool starts the Fool's journey, but the Fool is also the card of 0. And 0 means infinite possibilities. There are infinite ways, infinite opportunities that can happen once you take a leap of faith. Okay. Because the next card that you have is the Six of Cups. The Six of Cups is about nostalgia. Six of Cups is about thinking back. It's about thinking back about the good times and the good memories and the way things were. The energy of the Six of Cups is actually what leads to the Ten of Cups. For me, Ten of Cups is fulfillment, and it's about is my happily ever after card. Not that you pulled it, but the Six of Cups, without thinking back, thinking about what you want, thinking about what really matters to you, you never make that initial step in order to move forward. You would just been wherever you are in your situation, right? So this is good. This is good. Young, happy times, hopeful times, full of life, full of energy. Six full cups, because the next card that you have is the Ten of Swords. The Ten of Swords. The Ten of Swords for me is my overkill card, right? And that means to me, that is always symbolic of somebody who just simply won't let something go, right? And that's why people will tell me, they say, oh, Sharifa, we love what you do. You're a business coach. And I tell people I'm not a business coach. I'm a business consultant. The difference between coaches and consultants is coaches hold your hand. They sis, boom, bah, go, sunshine, go. I don't do none of that. I say, this is what you need to do. Go do it. And then maybe when you finish doing that, then you can come talk to me, because I don't really have a good bedside manner. I'm like, get up. You know, I'm more like a general. You know what I mean? That's how I am. I'm like, suck it up. Do whatever you got to do and make it happen. So for me, Ten of Swords, there are 10 swords in their back. Okay, but how many swords does it really take to kill someone? They probably were dead at the first or two swords, right? So you done put a third sword and a fourth sword and a fifth sword, and you all the way up to 10 swords. Okay, enough already. Swords are ideas in your mind, thinking. So it's like, to me, this is always indication of somebody who's replaying the same story, the same scenario in their mind. At some point, you just gotta let it go. Just let it go, move forward, and not, it's like to kill, you know, they say, what is it, kick a dead horse? You know what I mean? It's like, it's enough already. This situation is over. This situation has ended. And why are we still here talking about this same situation? And that's when I'm doing it professionally, because my friends, they get the unadulterated truth. Because if they tell me a story that whatever happened, it could be the most dramatic story in their life. I tell them it is 2:42 p.m. on Sunday, October 12th. So we just noting the time for record keeping purposes, because we know where we at. The next card that we have is the Four of Swords. The Four of Swords. So the Four of Swords to me is always my healing card. You'd have had 10 swords in your back, so it's time to heal, right? There was some pain, there was some sorrow in the Three of Swords, there was some loss, there were things that actually happened in the past, right? This is about things that happened in the past. They did happen, right? So Four of Swords to me is always about hanging out. It's about relaxing. It's about resting. It's about charging your battery. This is not a time to move. This is not a time to take action. And again, in conjunction with the Eight of Wands, wait, chill out. Those opportunities, your new direction is on its way to you. The other aspect of the Four of Swords for me is, they say, there's an expression from Oprah Winfrey where she said, when most people don't know what to do, they have to do something. She says, I don't do anything until I know what to do. Right? So the Four of Swords to me is always that energy of, until you know what to do, until you know which of the eight wands are for you, you don't have to be forced to make a decision. You don't have to go take something just because it's presented to you. Do you have enough information? Do you know everything that's entail? Have you asked questions? Those are the energy of the Four of Swords for me. Okay. The next card that you have is the Three of Pentacles. The Three of Pentacles. The Three of Pentacles for me is my teamwork makes the dream work card. It's about working together, working with other people, combining resources. This is not about going at it alone. If you're able to work together to be successful, then that's a good thing. You may have a team, you may not. That really is not my question nor my concern. But this is the recommendation about working with other people. Okay. The next card you have is Nine of Wands. Nine of Wands to me is always a beautiful card because it's about, because one of the things I always teach is, first of all, people tell me, even doing this show, they say, well, Sharifa, you're doing a show. Why not just do 3 cards? I don't like 3 cards. I don't like 5 cards. I like 10 cards. Because when people even do a 1 card reading and they try to get yes or no answers, to me, that's like, it's too simple, right? Because it's answering the meaning of life in 1 word. It like, oh, should I do this? Yes. No, life is not that simple. You need a lot of information. So it's not only about that card, it's about the card prior, the card after. So we already know what the card prior to the Nine of Wands is, and that's 8 of Wands, which is new opportunities. So we already know that new opportunities are coming your way. They're on their way. So what happens when you get them in the Nine of Wands? So the Nine of Wands for me is always that spark of creativity. That feeling where all of a sudden you know what to do. This is, to me, that card where you can move out on action. Everything is already there. This is you just really taking action. But for me, Wands is always the passion of creating new businesses, new projects, new books, new stories, new shows. But this is a very creative card for me. It's taking what you received and making it tangible. Okay. The next card that you have is the Two of Pentacles. The Two of Pentacles is my juggling resources card. Sometimes I will say it's the rob Peter to pay Paul card, but not everybody likes that connotation. But it's about taking from something in juggling those resources. And for people who know how to juggle resources, this is a very good sign. Okay. So I always give the first card, which is the issue. And then I kind of, to me, these are the in a sandwich, the first card and the 10th card is the bread in the sandwich. Everything else is just a part of that. Thank you, League TV, for joining us. Always amazing reads. Thank you. So the 10th card is the final outcome, which says, okay, you want me to sum it up at the end of the day. For you to ramble, you didn't gave but what does it all mean at the end of the day? And for me, that is the Tower. That is the Tower. And so the Tower for me is a major arcana card, right? But the Tower moves, right?
Interestingly enough, the only in all of those cards you just pulled, the only major arcana out of all the cards you just pulled.
Yes. Huh. Yes. The Tower is the only major arcana card, which is good because I always tell people, for me, when they get all major arcana cards or mostly major arcana cards, that means that they are going through a lot of personal shifts and changes. And if they get mostly minor arcana cards, then minor changes. Basically, this is you, this is where you're at. So we already know Sunshine is very established, but even with all these establishments, you end with the Tower. And so the Tower for me is unexpected changes, right? Because the whole idea of the Tower is the lightning bolt hits strikes the Tower. And there's no way to predict that lightning bolt hitting, right? So it comes out of the blue. It's unexpected.
I've got a perspective on that. I've actually given a couple of talks on that
I would love to hear it.
Yeah. So, as human beings, the Tower is inevitable in life, as far as in like it is a necessary requirement in the human cycle of life, right? that we have to, like, if you think about I think it's the redwoods, like the redwood forest
Of
in
course.
California, right?
Right.
They only reproduce when they're actually fire happens.
Okay.
Right? They only reproduce when fire happens. Like, so the natural cycle of life has this destructive nature in it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, if we can accept this as a part of our life, if we can accept this as a part of the cycle of our life, and if we can be willing enough to just let go, then we can create our own towers.
Mm-hmm.
We can create. So we don't need to be subjective to just a lightning strike happening and say that we are a victim of lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We can truly like let go of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'll give you what part of what this card says to me.
Okay.
I am in the process of trying to find an attorney to talk to
Mm-hmm.
dissolve the very first business that I created.
Okay.
That is my tower.
How do you associate that with the tower?
Because it is going to be destroying something that was once upon created. Once upon something that I have spent the last almost 10 years building up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether or not the nonprofit that I've incorporated is going to have I know it doesn't have the foundation right now to be able to sustain it. I don't know what's going to happen on the other side, but I do know that it needs to be torn down. I know this other business needs to be torn down. I do know that I don't have the resources, that Two of Pentacles. I do not have the resources available to be able to feed both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm going to have to be able to juggle. So I'm not going to allow nature, so to speak, to be what destroys it. I'm going to be the lightning strike.
Well, you know, that's a good analogy, right? I like what you had to say. But for me, and I'm not disagreeing with you, is that the lightning strike is one story, but it's also one aspect of it. The way when I look at the tower, is not only about the tower coming down. In my understanding, there are slaves, there are people who are in the bottom of the tower. And as a direct result of that tower coming down, these people are no longer free. So when I look at your situation with your business that you've been building for 10 years going down, that crumbling, that destruction, that removing of that business now gives you freedom. Right. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's not always about nature or the immediate lightning strike. It's about sometimes we never expected it. Right. So you may expect it 10 years later, 10 years in. But when you started this business 10 years ago, I'm pretty sure this is not the ending that you expected for this business.
Not
right?
correct. Not at all. Not at all. And so that's why, like, when a tower shows up, this is what I tell people when they read. The first tower shows up, it's usually a sign of like there's a change that's shifting and that's coming. And when the tower is showing up multiple times when I'm reading and I'm pulling, especially when my daily pulls, that's usually my sign of resistance. Mm-hmm. I'm holding on to something that the universe is actually asking me to let go of because it has something more beautiful for me on the other side.
I say the same thing. I love the way you said that because I did one and the lady got the tower and she was like, I just want to know, is this catastrophic change? And I was like, for me, what I feel is almost verbatim to what you said, Sunshine, is I believe that God or spirit, universe tries to whisper to us. Mm-hmm. He whispers. I believe God speaks in a still small voice. Yeah. But just like if I'm pretty sure, Sunshine, you didn't whisper to somebody. Like you try to, hey, Sunshine. Okay, Sunshine's not listening. You like, hey, Sunshine. Okay, Sunshine not listening. At some point, you're like, God dang it, Sunshine, I'm trying to tell you. To me, that's the energy of the tower, is that, are you listening? Yeah. Are you hearing the message? Do you see where you need to go? Because the more you ignore the message, the louder I feel the message is going to get.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. So I'm not surprised to see the tower to show up there because I've been in this interesting transition and process of trying to figure out this delicate kind of balance. And the reality is the rug has to be pulled. Like there's no easy way to do it. I wish there was. And
Right.
I'll work with an attorney on the easiest, but at the end of the day, it's going to have to be a crumble, right?
Yeah.
There's going to have to be a fall. And it's just, it's like one of those moments in life where, the discomfort just sucks. It's like I've told plenty of my clients, people, sometimes life just sucks, right? That's just the truth. Sometimes it just sucks, and you throw your temper tantrum, and then you get over it, right?
Right.
Cool beans, right? I'll throw my temper tantrum, I'll cry for a night, and maybe it'll be 5 nights, and then I'll get over it.
The sixth night, you're okay.
Yeah, I'm okay the 6th.
Okay. So that was the tower for you. What else? I'm curious. What else jumped out for you? What else stood out for you?
Yeah, I mean, infinite possibilities. I 100% agree. So I just turned 46,
Mhm.
being the first. So I'm starting like literally numerology. You said your dad's a numerologist, like a
Yeah.
numbers guy. So one, that's a whole new cycle. So I've been thinking about this whole week. I'm like, what is going to open up for me, right?
Mhm.
Infinite possibilities. So you kind
Right.
of hit on that one. Infinite possibilities are about to open up. And I feel that too with that tower, what that's going to open. Like
Mhm.
once that kind of rug pulls and things crumble, I think things are going to like be opening. And then in the past and the overkill and the truth, there's some things around my family. You say like it's this like nostalgic, and often we think of this 6 of Cups of being this really lovely, right? But that 10 of Swords, it's not always lovely,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Like the reality is sometimes our past haunts us, and that's the 10 of Swords.
Right.
That's
And I
ten
love
of
what you
Swords
said
is your
about
past.
the Six of Cups and the nostalgia, is because that's one of the reasons why they say a lot of people stay, or the people who have been and stay in abusive relationships stay,
Yep.
because
Yep.
over time you forget the bad times, and you
Yep.
start like, oh, I just love the way he cooks me dinner, and you start to
Yep.
only focus on, and you tune into, and you remember the best times, or the good times. But again, the 10 of Swords is, like you said, that repeating of, okay, we've been down this road a time or
Yeah.
eight.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then the 4 of Swords, in I use the Thoth deck for my daily polls. It's this truce. This is the word that they associate to that card. And so I think about that a lot, and this, wait for it, that energy that you said. And so I nowadays live such a beautifully spirit driven life that I'm just like, Spirit, just tell me what I need to do. So when it comes to some of this family stuff, like if I need to respond, tell me. So I've like an email from my father I haven't responded to in I think a week and a half now. And I'm like, okay, when the times I'm supposed to respond, I'll be told when the time is for me to respond. And until then, I'm not going to worry about it, right? So it's just this it was really beautiful to kind of, see this. And then the 3 of Pentacles, I do have a team, but what I'm trying to understand is how to build a team of folks that want to be able to support in other ways, right? So with a nonprofit, it's a different type of team,
Mhm.
right? So when you're building a nonprofit, you're building a different team. So how can my team be community? So I've got a couple community partners that I've been partnering with. I've got some, these lovely, I've been going around to these metaphysical stores throughout the Midwest for the last couple of months. So how can I look at them to be a part of my team? So
Right.
yeah, I really liked it. There was a lot of good pieces that it was, and then just that 9 of Wands, like making it happen. I'm curious with that 8 of Wands. I love that. It's Mercury. Oh gosh, it's Mercury in Sagittarius. So it's
Mhm.
this like very active energy, very active energy. And I'm like, okay, so is all of this supposed to truly be this quickly,
Mhm.
right? Of all of this stuff happening. And so I'll take it. But I'll take it. But I'll also just say, I'm just really grateful that I have the trust in the universe, that I'm also just not in this somatic place where I'm desire to rush it either.
Mm-hmm.
Like it may happen swiftly and that's okay, but I don't feel the desire or the need to have to rush it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's a really good place to be in.
I think it is. I love it. I think it's wonderful just being open like the fool to be able to make those decisions. I think that's the most innocent, one of the most innocent, beautiful cards in the deck. So, my dear sunshine, we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've heard what I've shared. You've heard a bit of what I do. And if you'd like to connect, if you identify as a witch and you want to reach out, if you are an individual that is in recovery and you are feeling like, I don't know where I fit, there's a couple of things that you can do. And the first thing that I would suggest is to go ahead and reach out to soberwitch.life. You can visit that website. You will find on there, first off, the recovery circles that I lead every single Monday and Friday. You are going to find a link to the Sober Witch Life book. You're going to find a link to some really cool merchandise if you just dig some really cool Sober Witch or Witch in Recovery merchandise. I do lead a radio show. I'm actually a radio host too. I have a live radio show, so you could give that a listen. But yeah, and if you are interested in the nonprofit, if that sparked your interest at all, you can visit that at thesovereignphoenix.com. So yeah, would love to have you check it out, and just thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this, and so glad that we were able to connect here today. It worked out perfectly.
You are so welcome. I want to thank you for being today's guest on Read Me Live. I also want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch the show live and everyone who's watching it in the archives. We definitely appreciate your support. And if you want to be sitting right there where sunshine is, visit my website at readmelive.com. Until next time, everyone have a safe and a blessed day.